Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. I cannot believe this is the first interview of the new year, and we have so much to get into today with our guest. But before I introduce her, I want to give a quick reminder that we are 23 days away, if I did the math right, from the live Build More Than Just a Body event happening in LA on January 26th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., where we're going to be diving into all things psychology and personal development to help you make peace with food, your body, and your goals so that you can have the most fulfilling preps and improvement season. So we will be getting into topics like self-love, mindset, daily ritual creation, body image, food relationship, identity, overcoming limiting beliefs, communicating and setting boundaries, and so much more. The event was a huge hit in October, and I have no doubt that everyone who comes will walk away feeling empowered and inspired, as well as really just connected to the other women who show up, which was a really cool win from the last one. And if you want to learn more about the event or you're interested in it, you can always reach out to me. If you're listening to this, future tense, you can just check out www.celestial.fit/live events, and everything's going to be there. So I'll make sure to include that in the show notes page. If you want to get your ticket and reserve your seat, that's assuming there's still tickets left. If you see them there, it means they're available. So if you have questions, I'll take care of you. You can just reach out directly, of course. So without further ado, we are speaking with a fit body fusion coach who we just heard about in the last episode with Maya. She is from Sacramento, California, started competing in 2016, then earned her pro card in 2017 at North American. So Shelby Pierce, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, and thank you for listening to my long-winded intro. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. So before we get into everything, I always love to ask, what's something you do or a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Yeah. So, I knew this question was coming. I've been listening to your podcast a lot.
That makes me so happy.
And it really got me thinking too. I'm like, man, what do I do? And it's really nothing special, to be honest. It's not really a ritual, I guess I wouldn't say that, but of course, aside from, getting my pump up in with my pump up foods, whatever I'm doing that day, it's really just kind of a total right before I go on stage, a moment of gratitude, all of those moments leading up to that, all the work I've done. And I really just like to keep to myself for the most part once it's getting really close to just to get into that calm place, control my nerves. Of course, I still get nervous and anxious. I visualize my presentation, and then I just go for it and give it my all. So
that's awesome. I love that you said you still get nervous too.
Oh yeah.
Some people think when you get that pro card, like all your human problems just go
goes away. It almost gets worse, I think. So
there's like more of an expectation, maybe.
Yeah.
So you're a coach. What'd you say? It's a good thing?
It's a good thing, though. Oh, yeah.
Very true. So you're a coach to other competitors, and I have personally wondered if you have anything that you wish your girls wouldn't assume or maybe just wish that they knew when it comes to developing a strong coaching relationship.
I think a big thing is communication. I think a lot of girls in the beginning initially too, for one, don't compare anything that I've done to your plan, so maybe, for example, I have had this happen a lot. I did win my pro card, my first national show. I have had so many girls make that their, idea of what was going to happen, so that's definitely something that's been almost, and it's just like comparing to anybody though. Some people do it quicker than others, for example. They followed this method maybe, or this pro did this, so it's going to happen like that for them. So I think them thinking that definitely has happened. And then on the other hand, a big communication thing. I mean, I think a lot of girls leave things out thinking I don't need to know. And then I've literally had it come up, 2 months later. Oh, by the way, I haven't had a period for 2 months. I'm like, oh, well, this is a problem and probably why you're not responding well. Just little things like that. So I think that's
Yeah,
maybe because they're nervous to tell me or something. I'm not sure. Um,
definitely.
that's
I would
definitely
agree with
been
that.
probably the top two things. Yeah.
That's really insightful. I think like even just from like you're an athlete, I'm an athlete, and I think like from my
Right.
perspective being someone who doesn't coach competitors, I think what stopped me in the past is being like I want it so bad that I don't care if there's something glaringly horrible going
Yes,
on. And I've since
absolutely.
learned from that because it set me back further than I would have liked it to. So learning that lesson ahead of time is definitely good. And I know my coach would be like, I wouldn't have wanted you to do that, but it happened.
Exactly.
And it's done, and now I know. And now my coach is like, Celeste, you send the most detailed check-ins. It's takes me an hour to. No,
It's
I'm just kidding.
important.
It is
Yeah.
important. Yes, it's very
You know.
important. So I'm
Hmm.
glad that you shared that because it gives us some perspective. And like I had mentioned before we got into this, is that there were a lot of listener submitted questions as well, which was awesome, specifically about coaching. Now, one of those was like, what are some of the things you think girls thinking about competing should consider before getting into it or reaching out to a coach to actually start a prep?
Really understand what you're getting yourself into. I think a big thing would be your life, your current situation. Do you have a big move coming up? Your finances, are they in order? Because it literally can drain your bank account. So just making sure that you actually are aware of what is actually going to happen. Make sure you have the time set aside. Think about those things, your life. You shouldn't be negatively impacting your life to get on stage. So
I
I
love
have
that.
so many girls that when I talk to them in consultations, they're like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm ready to jump on stage. And then we get a couple months in, we're just in the building phases, and they're like, oh, this is a lot. So I'm like, hey, it only gets more in prep.
Mm-hmm.
So just understanding, I guess, the timeline of things.
I appreciate that. Okay, cool. And how did you know you wanted to become a coach in the first place?
So I've always been a personal trainer. Actually, I've been a personal trainer for about 10 years, actually. And I actually owned my own gym. I always loved helping
Wow.
people, but there was always something missing. And I never knew what it was. It just felt like the same thing every day, I guess. I go and train the same person and really try to get them to adhere to their plan, and then when I started working with Jamie in January 2017, we worked together for about almost a year, and the experiences I received from her, and the support from the team, it just kind of clicked. I knew I wanted to be a part of it and teach others as well. I wanted to lead others to their own breakthroughs. And I knew it would bring me a bigger purpose, and it absolutely did. And it was really something I was missing.
Mm.
And of course, I've learned so much from Jamie. Her knowledge is unparalleled. She's been around for so long. Of course, we all follow the same methods. All the Fit Body Fusion coaches do, but that doesn't mean each client is going to respond the exact same way. We don't have this playbook where it's like everyone gets to do this flexible dieting approach. Of course, when it gets close to game time too, just things change. And anyway, kind of getting off track, but it's just been incredible figuring out what people need individually, seeing them thrive. Of course, all the relationships I've made, lifelong. And just kind of thinking coaching brings kind of the biggest reward to my life, just seeing those accomplishments that they get to make.
Yeah, it's very obvious that your passion is in this because just from your posts and judging by how your clients speak about you, like we heard Maya in the last episode, it's obvious that you express that love and express that care and express that fulfillment to them as well.
Yeah, no, it's so important to me. And, I love competing myself, but coaching is definitely above all for sure.
So
So
what do
I
you
didn't know
think
that.
until you started actually coaching through
Right.
Fit Body Fusion?
Hmm. Exactly.
Did you sell your
Yeah,
gym?
I did. Yeah,
Wow.
I did. There's a little more to that story, of course. I mean, that's right around the time I got extremely sick.
When you got a what?
And so when I got sick, I was
Oh,
diagnosed with
okay.
Crohn's disease. So there's a lot of stress going on, with owning your own gym and all of that. So, but yeah, and then again, I just had to find something that was really going to make me happy, and a bit more
Yeah.
manageable, I suppose. Yeah.
When you opened your gym, did you think to yourself, like, this is the dream, like, this is what I've wanted to do, and then maybe it just didn't really live up to what you expected?
Yeah, I mean, I've always worked in a gym. That's like literally all I know. I've literally thought like, is there anything else I'm good at? But literally, I've always been in the gym. I opened my first gym when I was 20, actually. Um,
Wow, that's
and I thought
amazing.
that was it. Yeah, my husband and I, and I loved it. I loved going, being with him and building something together. But just over the years, just things kind of changed a little bit. And like I said, it was more or less the same thing, repetition every day. That was
Yep.
kind of bugging me, I think.
You
Yeah.
definitely don't get that with competitors.
No, not at all.
So, were you guys married at the time when you had opened that?
We were, yeah. Oh, wait, no. That's a lie. We were just dating.
That's
We got married
awesome.
about 6 months after we opened our first gym.
If
Yeah,
we can get through that, we can get through anything.
exactly. Put all the hard things right at the same time.
Yes, that's awesome. So, what do you think makes you yourself a good coach, and why should other people think about joining your team?
I definitely think what I bring to the table that's different is my level of compassion. I really understand what it takes. I understand also the hardships that can come with things. And I've faced difficult situations, very difficult situations. And, I think I'm very understanding, when those check-ins happen. I can help you. Maybe it's not about just competition because I train lifestyle clients as well. I mean, I'm supportive. I can help you get through it. Obviously, I'm not a therapist or I can't change your life, but I can help kind of walk you through it and just being understanding. Sometimes that's all people need is that
Mhm.
support. So I definitely think that's something that's really important that I have, is that compassionate component. Um, and then just relentlessness. We'll find a way. I'm kind of strict. I'm a little hard on my clients a little bit. I'm very loving, but just we'll figure it out and find a way. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So, do you have any clients going for their pro cards in 2020? And does your approach
I
differ with
do.
them?
Um, I do have a few ladies that have come on. They're really focused on going for the pro card. I have two ladies competing this week, actually,
Oh,
at
wow.
Masters.
In
Yeah.
California with muscle
Yes,
contest? Cool.
exactly. Mhm. Um, what was the question?
It,
The
it,
approach?
yeah, if you have girls
Sorry.
competing for their pro cards and if you approach like them differently than other girls that you're coaching.
Oh, gotcha. So, I do have everyone follow the same methods in the beginning. Of course, if you need to reverse diet or repair your metabolism, whatever the case may be, build muscle, and then going in for the actual pro card, I do follow still flexible dieting, but again, kind of as I mentioned, everyone's different. So when you get a little bit closer, sometimes each person needs something different. I don't like to say like, oh, we got to pull water and depend on this, depend on that at all costs. I try to avoid that, but those weeks leading in, it just depends. I have two girls going in, for example, this week. They're doing two different things. One of them,
Mhm.
unfortunately, she's got to maybe pull water. The other one does not at all. Super well fed. The other one's pretty low. So just for example, I mean, everyone's really different. It's at that time what that person's needing. So again, though, the same approach. It's flexible dieting all the way through. Um, so
And
I guess
with
that
the
answers your
two
question.
girls, yes, you did. With the two girls you have competing this weekend, since they're both doing things so differently, I'm curious if you worked with them if you've worked with both of them for a while or if they're newer clients.
Yeah, I've worked with both of them for, I want to say almost a year now.
Wow.
Um, yeah, they've both done nationals. I've taken them to nationals before too. And the cool thing too is it's been different preps for them both times with me even, meaning, leading into it, what the approaches they've had to take, you know, the amount of food they've been eating, or water, the amount of cardio. It's been different both times for both of them.
Totally. Do you have that same experience with yourself too in your own preps?
Definitely. This prep this year, the last time I was on stage was 2 years ago. And I definitely was doing less cardio. I was eating a lot more. This prep around, I was doing more cardio than I've ever done, and my food was a lot lower. So, two
Was there a
polar opposites.
reason for that, do you think?
I do feel my body just went through a ton of changes, took a big hit, of course, just recovering from, my most recent flare, which was about a year and a half ago. And just, I felt I had more muscle this time, but my body was being kind of combative. It wasn't wanting to respond as well the initial phase. And then I just needed more cardio and lower food. It started responding really quickly, so it's just my body. It just, at that time, my body just wasn't having it. Thankfully, it pulled through for me, but, it was just a little bit tougher on me this time, definitely.
That's pretty awesome though, because like you said before, like that helps to boost your compassion and boost your understanding of what other girls might be going through or might have to go through. Like you can relate to both clients heading into this national show coming up this weekend because you've experienced both sides of that coin. So I think that's pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
now this is a fun question. I laughed when I read it, but what's the funniest thing a client has ever done?
The funniest thing. That's hard.
I
I'm
know.
trying to think funny. I'm so serious. So I'm like, what's happened that's been funny? But
You're like, I take no jokes. Everything's serious.
that's what everyone thinks. Um, Gosh,
It's okay if you
I
need to
don't know
take a
if it's
pass.
I don't know if it's really funny, but like I said, kind of going back to people leaving things out, I had someone. I can't think of it. Maybe if I can think of something, we'll come back to it. Can we do
Yeah,
that?
something
I
might
really
pop up
can't
in your
think of
head.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Let
man,
me think about that.
yeah, think about it. Even if you don't think about it by the end of the show, like you should post about it or like on your
I
story or
will.
something.
I
Tag
will.
me
I'm gonna
so
have
I
to think
can
about
see
that
it.
one. I
Okay,
will.
cool. Okay, so that was pretty much all the questions we got. I wanted to know, a lot of girls get anxiety about the time post show, and a lot of times girls who have never even competed fear it for, the reason being that people will talk about it or, warn them about it. So, what do you think is the key to having a successful reverse diet and positive post show experience?
I definitely think understanding what you're about to go through from beginning to end. You know, Especially if you're an athlete. I mean, you're an athlete. You should be able to handle your reverse. You just spent weeks, months dieting. Like, you can handle it afterwards too. It's completely a mental thing. Um, and I think a big thing is not letting the negative thoughts creep in about how you look. We all do it, of course. You're just shredded to the bone, but before you prep for a show, you need to be understanding that each season there's a place and there's a purpose. Afterwards, it's important to put some body weight back on, body fat, and be happy and accepting of yourself at all different stages. If you're super worried about it, use it to your advantage and adhere better to your reverse to maintain well, because you can definitely maintain a well-rounded physique afterwards if you take care of it. And then I think setting some short-term goals. I tell my girls all the time, set something in front of you that's a little goal. Is that like a strength goal, or stay really busy and view your body in a positive way? Because if you're looking at it negatively all the time, that's what you're going to get. I very much so believe in the power of positive thinking. So yeah, if you see yourself in a negative way and just hate the way you look, that's what you're going to get, and it's necessary to replenish your hormones. It's important to rebuild your metabolism and, spend time with all those you just neglected. One thing I did is I went on vacation right after my show, which I highly do not recommend doing that. Give yourself a solid 4 to 6 weeks. Just commit to that. I'm going to get out of this kind of danger zone. Then start just more planning fun time with your friends and your loved ones. You don't have to be perfect. You can allow yourself some flexibility, but it's just the off season, you're just preparing for your next season anyways. So just kind of keeping that in the back of your head too. Every move you make is a reflection of the next body, I guess is the best way to put it. So,
Absolutely. Oh man, a lot
Yeah.
of what you said, I'm just like thinking in my head, yes, because I could not agree more with you, specifically about what you said on setting short-term goals, keeping your body in a
Mm-hmm.
positive light, and just remaining in a positive thinking space. Because not I think a lot of people who listen to this show frequently know that I'm all about the mindset, I'm all about the personal development, all about the psychology. It's what I do. Now,
Mm-hmm.
why I think that those are the most important things, or some of the most important things, is because I personally have experienced myself, like if I have negative thoughts about my body, my actions naturally become negative as well. Similar to
Mm-hmm.
how when we have positive thoughts about our body, we generally have positive actions for our body. Because when we love ourselves, we'll be naturally more inspired to take care of ourselves. And I can remember the worst times post show or was when I was looking in the body going, oh, I look horrible, like horrible. And then I would go and be like, well, because I already don't look good, I'm going to go and ruin it even
Mm-hmm.
more, which is,
Spiral. Mm-hmm.
yes, it's exactly. So being so self-aware and also knowing ahead of time that you could face those challenges, what types of things, can you set up and be proactive so that when you do face them or when you know that they could come up, you're already prepared. And that's why I like the short-term goals aspect and keeping the positive thinking. And do you have a different approach when you coach your clients in prep versus when you're coaching them in off season? Because you did mention give yourself some time and then kind of give yourself that flexibility to work back in things that you haven't. So what's your coaching like in those two phases?
So you'll definitely never hear me tell you to take some time off and diet break and eat and do your thing. What I mean by flexibility is, go out to eat if it's a special occasion, anniversary, for example, or birthday, just something. Go into it knowing how much room you have, and then maybe to try to hit calories that night, something like that to keep it within range. Eat until you're 80% full, for example. Don't stuff yourself so full that you want to just go lay in bed and go to sleep. So it definitely differs from prep. Prep, you're all in, you made that commitment, honor it. There's no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely in your reverse, your off season, that type of flexibility is there. And then again, like for example, a holiday, the one day isn't going to kill you. It just matters how you bounce back the next day. So that's the kind of flexibility that I would say that I recommend.
I like that.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think
and I know that sounds a little harsh, but it helps you kind of stay on track, without, because it's hard. If you start getting off track, that's the further off track you get. If you have no plan, pre-plan, I think that's when you get into trouble. So at least going into it with, hey, I'm going to just keep it within calories, or, I'm going to make sure I eat before I go and just try things. That sets you up better than just all out, I'm taking the day off, you
mm-hmm.
know?
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
can't hit a target you can't see. So if you are like, okay, I'm going to have this special meal later, but that means I'm going to restrict food all day, you're going to go into that
Hmm.
feeling so hungry. And then when you get there,
Exactly.
you're going to eat like crazy. And then the next day,
Ravenous.
you're going to
Hmm.
feel like crap. And you're going to want to restrict again. And it just creates and promotes that cycle that a lot of us know, but don't want to ever go to or experience, especially if you've been there before. It's no fun. So I love that. And I like that you said, it sounds strict, but I think that what you said before about how this is like your time to prepare for the next prep. So it's more so like a priority thing. And I think a big part of that
Hmm.
is keeping that mental stamina, and knowing that like, hey, if you're really in this, you've got to be really into this. And I know that, you know, speaking of hunger, many girls struggle to understand and adjust their hunger, or adjust to their hunger, I should say, after shows. And I know Jamie came on and talked to us about this during Coaches Week. I would just love to hear your perspective too. Like, how do you help your clients and yourself to differentiate between real hunger post show and then more so of that like post show physiological, psychological hunger?
Yeah. I mean, I never really understood the whole, I mean, I understand it, but the worst thing you can do is go reach for the cookies and the donuts and all the sweets they have for you waiting after the stage. Give it a little bit of time. You know, I've done it before and I just get super sick. And my
Yeah.
clients that do it, they're just like, I'm super sick. So just make yourself wait a week, or at least like get some real food in and then have some, and just understand your still in the most important stages. Like, you just went through this super hard prep. Now it's a really serious time, that you can really unravel everything you just did and then some. And just control yourself. Allow yourself to have a little bit here and there. But again, it's about pre-planning. Don't order giant boxes of my Cookie Monster Maya, actually.
I
Just it's
know.
hard because when you order all those things, I mean, it's fine, it's okay, but you better make dang sure that you've got some control. Put some in the freezer. Only take a little bit with you. Don't plan your whole week thinking about what you're going to eat that night after the show. That's the last thing you want to do.
Right. And the reason we do that is because, like, let's say we've been deprived of a certain amount of food or a certain type of food, even following like a flexible dieting approach, it sometimes just doesn't fit, or it's not worth it, I guess you could say, when you can get more energy and spread out your meals more with something, let's say, not a cookie that maybe could have fit in like straight at the beginning of prep. So looking at like the idea behind fixation and like starvation mentality is like it actually leads us to then fixate on food. So I think that sometimes if competitors can understand why they're actually thinking about it and put it in perspective, it becomes more tangible for them to change, because we know like, hey, I shouldn't be planning my whole prep around what I'm going to eat post show, but also there's a reason I'm doing that. And it's because we're in some sort of restriction mindset. So I think that if people know that, they can kind of understand like, okay, this isn't me, this is just the fixation talking, and knowing that can help them to, provide peace of mind. And like you said, like, after a show, why would you want the first thing to be like a cookie? It's kind of like if someone runs a marathon, like maybe they're craving like a fresh fruit smoothie. Like one of my friends just ran, she's like, I just want a smoothie after. It's like, that's because your body needs that nourishment. When you've been standing around all day in heels or doing your posing, or you've just had a week of preparing for this, depending on how you peaked into it, like your body's gonna want that love and care, and then then enjoy yourself.
Absolutely. Go for the savory meal first. That's fine. But again, just wait a little bit, because you're gonna get sick. And it sometimes just takes a couple times of doing it to learn. But
so true.
Again, just go for the savory, please.
Yes, so true. Like, get the burger, and then I've had similar experiences. Like, it took me some time, but the times that I didn't go like and immediately have something like the piece of cake or whatever, like, I was so much better. I was like, oh, I realized I don't actually care. Like, it kind of puts you back in that mindset, like, it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help when you're usually really hungry on show day anyways.
Exactly.
So go fill up on your meal and then see how you feel after that.
I've had 2 rice cakes and some peanut butter today. I'm
Yeah,
so ready.
exactly. Yeah. Get your protein in, then see how you really, really feel.
Exactly. Yes. So true. I couldn't imagine myself going and eating a chicken breast, though, to be honest, but I could take my
No,
teeth into like a burger or
doesn't
some
have to be
like
too boring.
tacos,
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're actually in your improvement season right now. What are you
I am.
doing differently this time around than you did before? Because you had taken a good chunk of time off and then worked your way back into it. So maybe what's different now, or what are your plans moving forward that you're considering?
I didn't get to reverse properly out of my last show simply because, of course, I got sick, so everything was just do what you can at that point. So I'm excited, I get to rebuild properly this time. Of course, we're just reversing to get my calories nice and high. My feedback was to build, and that's it. I got really lean, and we just kept getting leaner and leaner and leaner until we finally realized, oh, it's the muscle density that's missing. That's what I need, to get those tie-ins popping at least. So this time, my improvement season, I have no show date plans, of course. I don't like to think too far ahead and place the expectation. I'm really just focused on building. So of course, getting my strength back up to where it was, getting my calories back up. They're definitely working their way back up slowly, and then just having fun with it, building.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the fun part.
Yeah, exactly. I learned that this past year, like, wow, this is the part I think I might miss, like it's actually really fun. So, and it's inspiring too, then when you go into your prep, you're like, I'm going to keep lifting heavy and I'm going to push as hard as I can. Just kind of brings in a different mindset.
Absolutely.
So your feedback was to build more muscle. What are you doing to capitalize on this time off in order to bring what they're looking for?
So this is another thing. A lot of times we'll get feedback and we're like, okay, I'm going to come back in 3 months. Obviously that's not enough time. I know it's really hard to take a time away from the stage. It was hard for me because I just got back on stage and I was like, oh man, but I know it needs to be done. I mean, these pros are freaking, the quality level is insane, so I know with my goals, I have to be strategic, so I'm obviously reversing out of some conditioning still. I'm not primarily focused on lifting, but being really strategic. I have about a 6-day split right now I'm probably doing. And yeah, I'm eventually just getting to that point where it's just about lifting heavy, allowing myself to recover and just I'm probably taking at least 6 to 8 months if I had to guess of just building. If I'm ready sooner than that, then great. But it really takes a lot of time to actually put on the amount of muscle that I'm going to need.
To actually come and be competitive.
Yeah. Yeah. I might even take the whole year. I'm not really sure, but I'm just going and just when I'm ready, I'll ready to come back again. But definitely time is needed. So I'll take as much time as I need.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's like this hump after a show where like, I have to take time off. No, no, no. And then all of a sudden it hits you like, I'm
Yeah,
good. Like, let's do this.
exactly. Exactly.
So,
I'm
what were you going to say?
I was gonna say I'm enjoying it now. When I first had to peel myself away, I'm like, oh, maybe we should do a couple more. But I'm like, okay, it's not gonna get better. This is what I preach to my girls all the time. So,
Yeah.
so
I'm sure they appreciate that now you're in it with a lot of them or maybe helping them. And is it weird, by the way, maybe weird's not the right word, but what is it like coaching other girls who are in the IFBB Pro League with you?
um, it's not strange to me at all. It's not weird. I definitely probably wouldn't tell her like, hey, let's go do the same show at the same time. There's so many shows to choose from, so that's the beauty of it. And I love it actually. I think it's
Yeah.
incredible. I love watching her. I love supporting, her, and definitely not strange at all. It's awesome. I feel like we had to almost share something,
Mm,
just to talk about in a way. So it's awesome.
that's awesome. Yeah, similar like paths and goals, big stages, but also lots of little ones you can hit up before there to get to that end goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think you and me both like to get into like, excuse me, but the shit no one likes to talk about. And just judging
Yeah.
from the conversation we've had already, I'm like, oh, I love this. So, the fact that this sport can be mentally demanding in ways that can cause long-term damage. And as mentioned, like I have used and personally used psychology and personal development tools, and now expanding my knowledge from my degree in psychology to a master's in clinical mental health counseling. And one of my big vision goals personally is to bridge the gap between bodybuilders and the mental health field, and collaborating with different coaches and teams, helping their girls post show, all these things. And what inspired me to bring this up with you is because in a post you recently wrote, you mentioned something that I think is extremely important, which is to stop stressing yourself to get on the stage over and over again to the point where you run yourself to the ground. And the unhealthy approach leads to a mental disaster like binging, which we just talked about. And you said you had to encourage yourself to take a step back because it wasn't going to get better. So I want to hear your take on how you have helped your girls to really pay attention to their needs, listening to their body, their future goals, and making sure that they're actually in a good space to continue competing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. And that kind of goes back to, if you're thinking about competing, you've never competed before, understanding what's about to happen. And a big thing is stress, your mental, understanding your why. And I think, not to get off track, but
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the biggest thing is your why. Why are you doing this? This is kind of a funny thing, but as soon as you say, okay, I'm going to do this show, you almost feel like you have to do that show because you announced it to everyone you're doing it, right?
So
And you
true.
almost stop doing it for yourself. But I think that all kind of goes back to that why. So in terms of health, making sure you aren't running to the ground already. Like you can't be backed into a corner. Your calories so low. You're so tired and fatigued. You can't do day-to-day tasks. Prepping is hard. You're going to work super hard. It's all about grit, but making sure that it's not crossing the line where I'm the perfect example. I mean, I ignored my warning signs 2 years ago. I kept going, and it really bit me in the ass. You know what I mean? Not that it caused it, but it escalated it. Are my thoughts, oh, could I have helped it and maybe not made it so bad if I paid more attention? Maybe, but anyway, just really listening to your body. If you're getting those warning signs that something's off, and maybe it's your hormones, maybe it's just mental health. If you're like hating yourself and your own body, your own skin, like that's not a good thing either. So just paying attention to it, and then being able to understand you can't control everything. You can control your mindset though. And you just have to be open, I guess, to change. If you need to take a little bit of a time, a little bit of a break, you need to be able to communicate with me, I guess, if I'm your coach, or communicate with your coach, and have that person on the other end that's looking out for your best interest, to help you move forward. And then again, just that why. If it's not serving you and it's not still the reason why you started in the first place, maybe it's not for you, or maybe it's not the right time. It's an extreme lifestyle. It's an extreme sport. And you just have to be okay with, I guess, the outcome, no matter what. I'm not getting off track. I'm not even sure what the question was. You know what I mean? But just,
no, you're
it all
doing
goes back to that
amazing.
mentality. You know what I mean? Just, there's a lot coming your way. A lot. So you just need to be mentally prepared for it. And again, just look at yourself positively, and I guess be just prepared, and have the support you need.
Definitely. And you mentioned at the start of our episode that you had been through a lot of difficult times, which has really helped you to develop that mindset of, being ready for what's to come. So what were some of those things that you experienced?
Well, I mean, of course, when I was, I guess, in my flare, that's what I'll call it, I went through a few months of just being really negative and upset and angry, and didn't understand why it was happening to me, until I finally realized, like, hey, this is what it is, which people are faced with this all the time. It doesn't have to be because of their autoimmune disease. It's, you're faced with difficult things all the time. So I think just being able to accept what is, and I started to be more present and just moving forward, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do to fix it. I'm going to do what I can with my current situation, and then I'm going to work my way around it. I finally got into remission, and at that point, all I had was just to be positive and be grateful. I'm here, I'm working out still, and, I'm just going to keep doing what I can, and then just kind of be me, be present, because you almost get checked out sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was just really conscious of my thoughts and my words, and I am one of those people that would let little things bug me all the time and, ruin my vibe or whatever. And, so I quit letting those little things happen. And there's a lot to be grateful for. We have a choice to let things ruin our day, or we can make the best out of the situation. So, and I don't know if you ever noticed this, but as soon as one little thing happens that pisses you off really bad, more and more little bad things keep happening that irritate you all day. So,
Oh, yeah.
so it's kind of up to you. It's like, hey, if you let those things in, it's going to happen. If you're just positive and just stay connected, and, just understand that, again, you can't control everything, and you just control what you can. So.
I love that. And you're referring to Crohn's disease, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So can you explain to people, one, like what that looks like for you or looked like for you, and then what steps you took to get through and even eliminate the symptoms?
Yeah. So it is an autoimmune disease. So when you're sick, it's called a flare. So at that time, for me, it was, to make it light, it's kind of just a big blur of craziness. It's a gray area. It's really different for everybody. And it's not even just Crohn's disease. It's any autoimmune disease. This kind of goes through all of it. Doctors don't know what causes it. They can just kind of let you know how to maybe manage it by telling you, do what you can, do what works for you. So for me, my symptoms when I was sick, were extreme, just stomach pain, fatigue. I was bedridden for months, you know what I mean? But as soon
Wow.
as I gained remission from it, so to this current day, I obviously know what I can and can't do at this point. So there's certain foods I just can't eat. There's maybe days where I need to take a little bit of a break, from training, not overexhaust it, So obviously I'm healthy and fine now, but it just kind of depends on just you finding what works for you. So.
Wow. What kinds of things can you no longer eat? And then how do you know when it's time for you to take a break?
So as far as the food goes, I can't eat basically any crap. So no processed foods, artificial sweeteners or killers. Um, so that makes prep easy. I can only
Yeah.
have clean whole foods for the most part. I can't eat vegetables though. Pretty
You
much
cannot, you said?
no. There's like
Okay.
hardly any vegetables I can tolerate, so those are out. Um, so again, I kind of just found the things that I can eat, which is the basics. Clean whole foods for the most part. My grains, I have to soak them, overnight. Beans, if I want those, I have to soak them. So just anything that you can kind of think in your mind that was going to be harder on your digestion. Um, and then what was the second part of your question?
How do you know when it's time to rest so you don't get overexhausted?
Oh, for example, I might wake up and you just feel like, like the feeling of fatigue, I guess, or like you didn't sleep. I sleep a
Mm,
lot too. So I'm like, okay, so I'll be feeling just something's like a little bit off. There's been times where I've gone to the gym and I'm totally forcing it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go do some yoga and stretching, and I'm not going to worry about lifting today. And I usually always feel better the next day. So just sometimes you just overdo it a little bit and you just feel kind of just fatigue and just run down, to say the least. Or if I eat something that I really shouldn't have eaten,
mm,
it gives you that same fatigue feeling. So
definitely.
I'm really in tune with my own body. I mean, I can feel it coming on. So
How'd
now
you
it's
find
easy to
out you
manage.
had it?
um, Pretty much I made my pro debut, which was in 2017. It was in like October. Um, Going into that show, things were getting worse and worse. Like my feeling, things were happening, my stomach pains, there was blood in my stool. I mean, there were some things going on
Oh.
to the point where I was like, okay, something's really wrong. There's something wrong with me. Like I need to accept it. Kind of like I told you, you
Mm-hmm.
ignore your body sometimes and just keep going. I won my pro card, then I wanted to go make my pro debut. I was just on it, until after that show, I got home and I was literally in bed in so much pain. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the doctor. I ended up pulling out of the next show I was supposed to do. Um, sure enough, I go to the doctor, and right there they diagnosed me um,
Wow.
with Crohn's disease. Yeah, and they told me, they're like, you've been probably living with this for years, just because it was so bad. They're like, it's
Right.
not something that just comes out of nowhere. Like this has been going on for years and years. So no, it wasn't because of competing, but definitely stress. Stressing my body, like I mentioned, stress from my business. I'm a big stressor. So I definitely think none of those things were helping. They were just escalating it.
Definitely. And you
So,
mentioned that like strengthened your ability to really tune into your body.
hmm
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's
It's one of
definitely a
those things that I'd
positive.
almost take for granted. I mean, I definitely wasn't. And now I'm so in tune with my own body. Of course, I don't want anything to happen again. I don't want to have a flare again. Um, it's almost like you think it's not going to happen to you, or they always say stress is the silent killer. I'm fine. I'm invincible. But just any little thing, those things affect you. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely.
yeah,
And do you feel like this has helped you to maintain or develop a stronger, like fighting, persistent mentality as well?
absolutely. I feel
Mhm.
like I am so resilient. And again, like it makes me sound a little tougher, but I'm like, hey, you know, for example, if you choose to compete, I don't want to hear the complaining. Same thing for myself. I'll speak about myself. I don't complain. I chose to do this. I have this big goal in front of me. The big goal this year was just to get back on stage to say I could and prove that I could because, I mean, gosh, my doctors, my family, everyone wanted me to not do it. Doctors told me I couldn't,
Why'd they say
so for
that?
me, they just felt that it wasn't wise, I guess, to put my body through that type of stress so quickly.
Yeah.
Um, And then I did change doctors. I ended up finding people that were a little bit more open to the idea of being an athlete, I suppose. I worked really closely with them, and so again, it's just, the fight in me. I can overcome anything. So I definitely feel like as far as competing, to me, in my mind, I'm like, that's no problem. I get to do this. I'm grateful. So
That's right. I
I
can't
think a lot of
stand when
people
people
forget that.
complain. Exactly. No, you're right. I think people forget it too frequently.
Mhm.
But you
Mhm.
remind yourself every day. You mentioned gratitude helps you a lot, as well as keeping that positive mindset, and then accepting what position you're in and doing everything you can in it. I think those are three like really powerful decisions people can make every single day to have the control of their mindset that's going to ultimately impact the direction of their life. And um, yeah, it's pretty cool to hear how different people have been able to develop resilience. And I think that it bleeds into other areas of our life, like people who struggle with, let's say, staying on point with their plan, adhering, they probably struggle in other areas of their life, like let's say putting away the laundry, or
Mhm.
picking up the things that have been on the ground for so long. It shows up in other areas of our life. And I think that if we can create like challenges in our life in some ways, like almost controlled chaos, we are able to then develop a resilience and develop a strength. So even if we're not immediately having a stress put on us like you experienced with being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, but even if we just challenge ourselves every single day with one thing, like, okay, this is my non-negotiable today, no matter what, it gets done. We're basically flexing that commitment and self-accountability muscle. So it shows up when it's time to prep, and you're no longer complaining about it, or, the things that you said you're going to do are just now more natural and more of a non-negotiable as well.
Absolutely.
So
No, it's so true.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's clear too, even if people listening just tried this for like a week, every single day, one thing challenges you, or something that you've been putting off for a while, try it for a week and report back, tag us, because I guarantee you're going to notice a difference. It's going to show up in
Mhm.
other areas of your life.
Well, that's how you grow anyways. I feel like challenge, you'll just stay in the same place. It's almost, you have to go through challenges and face adversity, and not just like serious. It could be anything, like you're saying, something little. It's like you have to grow and evolve and push yourself, push the limit. So
Exactly. It's not hard. It's not just a hard thing. Like it's hard to it's hard for me to communicate this, but it's not hard to say prep if you really love it and you're an athlete and you're committed to it. There's aspects of it that are challenging, for sure. How can we make them less heavy and less challenging? Well, we develop a strength within us that helps us to approach anything in life with more umph, with more of an acceptance, or more of a capability. It's just like improving our self-efficacy. We start to believe in our ability to do it. Like one day you'll no longer not be like, one day you're no longer going to be pressing, like, let's say 10s, you're going to be pressing like 40s, but you have to work your way up to that. And how does it happen? With consistent and progressive overload. So similar thing to life in general, and improving your mentality about the things and challenges that come your way.
absolutely. No, I love that.
Thank you.
That's so true. It's like I never understood like the whole complaining aspect though. Again, it's about the why too.
What is your
Who's
why?
forcing you to do this?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it's
It's like,
your choice.
yeah.
So what's your why?
For competing, gosh, I just have a blast with bodybuilding. I feel like if the stage wasn't there, no matter what, I'm always going to have this lifestyle, and for me, just seeing the whole process, seeing my body change, and I have a ton of fun being around just all these like-minded individuals, accomplishing something that's super extreme for me and for everyone, of course, but it's tough, it's different. And I think this season, my why was really just geared around myself, proving to myself that I can do it again and make it back on stage. So regardless, I'm doing this. Obviously, I got to take care of my health first, but it was really not an easy prep for me, but it was really easy for me to get through it because there wasn't a day of, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I was just like, hell yeah, like look what I get to do still, so
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Do you feel like that supported you when it was time to step on stage?
I do. I was so happy. There was even moments where I told Jamie, I'm like, I feel like I'm not in prep because this is just like, I have the biggest smile on my face all the time. Obviously, it got tough towards the end, but yeah, going on stage, I felt, her husband, Greg, actually said that to me. He's like, you already won. You're about to compete today. That's your biggest goal. And just obviously just everything I've been through, it was really special to me. Like it was almost like, oh my God, this is really happening. I talked about it for so long. I mean, 2 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I wasn't away by choice, so just getting back on stage, I was just so happy. I'm just really proud of myself too. So
That's
it was awesome.
amazing. You fulfilled your why.
I really did. Yeah.
And you seem
Yeah.
to live a very balanced life, based on your Instagram profile and things I've heard. And just like what I see from you is like, your healthy relationship, your coaching, thriving in health and in the sport, right now. So, what would you encourage other people do in order to create a life that they really love?
I mean, making it a part of who you are, which that's another big thing for the coaching aspect, is figuring out what that person needs. So you need something. There's so many different approaches out there. Find what's going to best suit your lifestyle. For me, I need the flexibility. I need to know that, I'm on the go a lot. I need to just mentally know that I can have whatever I want, and then being really balanced. That's ultimately what it all comes down to. I'm super busy. And the last thing you're going to tell me is how you can't do something because you're busy, because we're all busy. It's about balance. So it's simple for me. I just make it a part of my schedule. I'm a creature of habit. I'm very organized. And I really just, everything I do, I make lists for things, a calendar. For example, I work out in the morning. I take care of myself first, then I make all my meals for the day, then I get to all my business and my work. It's important to take care of yourself first. And when you're doing each thing, for example, if you're working or if I'm working, I'm not thinking about my food or my training because I already had it planned for the day and I already worked out. So it's not a problem. I don't have to stress about it. So you can get it done. It's just about that organization part. And then just being balanced. I get home about 6 o'clock at night. I am off my electronics. I'm off my phone. I'm not working anymore. I'm here with my husband. If he wants to go out of town, I just plan around it. A big thing I worked on this year and last year really too was being more present. I'm constantly honoring that. I'm focused on living in the moment. I'm not allowing myself to be anxious like I used to be about what's happening in 5 days from now and not being able to sleep because of it, and just, again, I'm just focused. Whatever I'm doing, I'm focused on it. So yeah, I think it's, again, just being able to kind of plan ahead and give yourself that time to just plan out your day and just really focus on what you want, what's the priority, you can get it done.
I love that. I like that you even mentioned how much being present in the moment has made a positive influence on your life too.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it can almost make you scattered. If you're just like focused on this and that and 10 different things at the same time, I mean, you almost don't get anything done, and then you're just stressing yourself out. You're taking away from your own happiness. There's been times where I've missed out on so many moments because I was so worried about other things going on. And really, I should have just been, there with my family or there with my husband, paying
Right.
attention to them. The stuff's still going to be there 2 hours later when you're done,
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't get those moments back, that's for sure.
That's true, huh? So now you're actually experiencing them even more.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So
absolutely.
I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with and deal with is like, I need to get in the present moment, but I'm also a go-getter and a planner. So then I take myself out of it by thinking about what's next, what's next, what's next. It's like, why are you even
Mhm.
thinking about what's next? Usually we think about what's next because we want it to make our life better or make our experiences better. But imagine if we did that forever. We would never be able to truly experience what we've created for ourselves, which is this moment right here and right now. So by you actually
Yeah.
now connecting to the present moment, anyone who connects to the present moment is like, oh, I actually can experience what I've been looking forward to or what I've been doing, all of this planning, organizing, and putting myself first, or doing this and that for.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you talk about planning ahead. You also talk about living in the moment. So maybe this next question is kind of perfect. But Maya had this question. I thought it was awesome, which is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, well, I mean, I'll still be coaching for sure.
Hmm.
I definitely see my priority there. I still plan to be married. No, I'm just kidding. I definitely think that I'm really focused on growing my clientele more and more, and not that I'm not caring about competing. Of course, that's my passion. I love it. But even more, I'm just so focused on my clients, and helping them get to their next level. So I think definitely in 5 years, it's something I've actually been thinking about.
Wow.
And it's a hard one, It's actually a tough one. Like, man, where do I see myself? So from a job standpoint and my career and my passion too, it's definitely coaching. I mean, I don't know if I'll be competing in 5 years. That's a long time away to say. Um, I would almost think I wouldn't be, but I guess you never know. I
Right.
do want children one day too, of course, and I don't have a plan for that, but it just kind of depends, I guess, how the next few years go as far as those things go.
Definitely. I have a friend who was, well, he's a really good friend of mine now. He was my very first business mentor actually. And he had shared this quote, and it was that people, or maybe it wasn't a quote, maybe it was a stat. I don't even remember. But anyways, it was people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. And it's kind of perfect
Hmm.
going into a new decade to think about that, because I think if we reflect on, the last 5 years, last 10 years, the last 1 year, maybe we've accomplished a lot more than we thought, or maybe there were things that were left undone, but it's okay. Like if you think about it, if you're going to over project for 1 year, you still have probably like in the next 9 years, you're going to accomplish way more than you even ever imagined. So keeping that in mind, it's like, how can we set goals that are really, really inspiring and massive, but also
Yeah.
by knowing, like we have more power than we even believe.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that's a hard one for a lot of people because, and that's such a cool quote or saying or whatever. I mean, it's so true. You can
Right?
accomplish so much. And then as soon as you're asked that question, you're like, ooh, I don't know. It's a hard one. So,
Yeah,
but
different stages
I,
of our life.
and things are always changing. They change so quick. I can't
Exactly.
really think of anything specific, but I mean, like you're always evolving and growing, or at least I hope you are. That's the point. Just be inspiring and be inspired. Go do the things, go chase your dreams. I mean, so yeah, it's an important thing to have in mind. I mean, it's okay if it changes, you
Yeah.
know, but have an idea for sure.
Be present enough so it can change if it needs to. Like, don't be so
Yes,
overcommitted to a vision you miss out on something even better.
absolutely.
Oh, I love talking about that stuff. It gets me thinking because, like,
Yeah.
when you have like big goals and big visions for your life, and you commit to something and you see it, you almost can see it and feel it and experience it in your mind before it actually happens. And then one day it does happen and you're like, I've been here before. Like I created this reality. And
Yeah.
so it's like one of the most fulfilling and empowering things ever to
Powerful.
know. Right? Yeah.
Oh man.
Well,
Well,
I just want to ask you now, what's your best advice for girls who are thinking about competing but haven't yet? And then what's your best advice for girls who are on their road to pro?
hmm. Well, I definitely think for the girls that, haven't competed yet or you're thinking about competing, the most important thing is to get a good, reputable coach. You need their eyes, but you also need support and you need someone who has your best interest, for this is your life. This is your body. It's not about throwing you on stage and getting you a trophy. There's a lot of really great coaches out there, of course, and there's also a lot of really bad coaches that don't have any interest, you know, trying to train someone. So just definitely do your research. You can ruin your body, you can ruin your health, so choose your coach wisely. And then I think the most important part, again, I keep talking about this, I know, but is know your why. Why are you wanting to compete? And keep it clear the entire time. As soon as the doubt starts kicking in, you're going to need that why. That's your driving force, and is it to reach a physical goal maybe, or just a competitive goal, something new, a hobby? No matter what it is, it's fine. But just keep it in mind, and then just ask yourself also maybe, how is it going to enhance your life once you achieve it? What's it going to actually bring you? What are you trying to get out of it? And there's no right or wrong with it, but I think you'll have a lot more, you'll last longer in the sport if you really understand that. So, and, going for your pro card. I think it's just about bringing your best every time, and I think another reason, kind of going back to the coaching thing, definitely just make sure you're ready to actually step on that national stage. And then once you are, understand that it may happen the first time, it may not happen. You may need more time than others. Don't compare to anybody else. And if you just put your all into it and just keep showing up, it will be yours one day. When it is your time, it will happen. You got to get the feedback, and just come back stronger every time. Take the time that's needed. The judges aren't there giving you feedback for nothing. So if they tell you to go build or come back this time, go do that, and it's not easy. And just know that once you do reach that pro card, you're back in a little pond again with the pros. So just enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and just be proud of yourself and don't stress about the outcome. So
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, just everything we've talked about has been really insightful and awesome, and I'm glad that we connected, and I had a lot of fun talking to you too, and I want everyone to be able to say thank you and also connect with you. So can you let them know how they can find you or even reach out to you about coaching?
Yeah, so as far as social media, I am on Instagram. My handle is Shelby Pierce Fit, and then there's also all my links on there for coaching, consultation forms and all of that. The website's listed in my bio. So
awesome. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes page so that everyone listening, those links are going to be on www.celestial.fit/podcast. But of course,
awesome.
Yes, so they're always going to be there, and there's going to be a category section. It's going to say Shelby Pierce. So if you're listening to this, first thing, right on Friday morning when it gets released, it's going to be at the top of the podcast page, right? I know. And Happy New Year, here we are, even though we're recording this on December 11th. By the time it comes out, people will have already popped the champagne, maybe getting ready to compete in their first show of the year. So anyway, I appreciate you guys.
This was awesome. Super inspiring too.
Of course. Oh my gosh, I feel so inspired. I feel pumped up and ready to attack the day, honestly.
Yeah, I'm man, I got some things to think about, I think.
What's the funniest thing that ever happened with a client?
Oh yeah, I gotta think about that. I'm gonna think about that one for sure.
That's awesome.
That's a good one.
Yes, it is. So with all that being said, I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this